Ji-hoon's hand, poised to knock, froze in midair. He heard a muffled sound from inside the room, a low groan, followed by a quiet, urgent voice. His heart, already a frantic drum against his ribs, began to pound even harder. He lowered his hand and gently pushed the door, finding it unlocked and slightly ajar. He peered inside. The sight that greeted him was not what he had expected. A young man he vaguely recognized from his classes, Seo-jin, was kneeling by Min-jun's bed. Min-jun was lying on his back, his face flushed and his body trembling. He was only in a pair of briefs, and his breathing was shallow and ragged. "What's wrong?" Ji-hoon's voice was a hushed whisper, but it was enough to make Seo-jin jump. He looked up, his eyes wide with surprise and relief. "Professor Ji-hoon, he has a high fever. I've been trying to cool him down, but it's not working." Ji-hoon moved to the bed, his academic composure replaced by a primal instinct to care. "I'll take it from here," he said, his voice firm and steady. He took the wet cloth from Seo-jin's hand. "You should go. Thank you for staying with him." Seo-jin nodded, a look of immense gratitude on his face, and quietly slipped out of the room. He was alone with Min-jun. The sight of the younger man, so vulnerable and exposed, sent a jolt through him. He saw the lean, athletic body he had only glimpsed beneath layers of clothing, and for a moment his heart fluttered with a different kind of heat. He pushed the thought away, focusing on the task at hand. He dipped a fresh cloth into the basin of cool water Seo-jin had left behind. Ji-hoon gently wiped Min-jun's forehead, then his neck and chest. Min-jun moaned softly in his sleep, the cool touch a welcome relief. "It's okay, Min-jun," Ji-hoon whispered, his voice a soft murmur in the quiet room. "I'm here. Just rest." He continued his ministrations, his touch careful and respectful. He wiped down Min-jun's arms and legs, his hands moving with a practiced ease he didn't know he possessed. The intimacy of the moment was profound, but it was an intimacy born of care, not of desire. He was a professor, a caregiver, and nothing more. Hours passed in a quiet rhythm of care. Ji-hoon sat in a chair by the bed, his hand resting on Min-jun's. He watched the younger man, his heart aching with a tenderness he had never felt before. The night was still, the only sound. The soft, rhythmic whoosh of the fan and Min-jun's labored breathing. Just before dawn, Min-jun's fever finally broke. His breathing became even, his body still. Ji-hoon felt a wave of profound relief wash over him. He leaned over and pressed his hand to Min-jun's forehead. It was cool. He was gonna be okay. Min-jun's eyes fluttered open. The room was bathed in a soft, golden light, and the air was cool against his skin. He felt a strange warmth on his hand and looked down. A man was sleeping next to him, his head resting on the side of the bed, his hand gently holding Min-jun's. It was Professor Ji-hoon. Min-jun's heart did a strange little flip. He must be dreaming. This was a fantasy, a wish his feverish mind had conjured. In this dream, he could finally do what he had wanted to do for so long. He leaned over, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm. He closed the small distance between them and pressed his lips against the professor's. It was a soft, gentle kiss, a tentative exploration. The professor's lips were warm and soft, and Min-jun's heart soared. This was the most wonderful dream he had ever had. But then, the professor's eyes fluttered open. They were a beautiful, warm brown, and they were looking directly at him. The dream shattered. Min-jun pulled back as if he had been burned, his face flushing crimson. This wasn't a dream. This was real. "Min-jun," Ji-hoon's voice was a groggy whisper, laced with confusion. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. "You're awake. How are you feeling?" He didn't mention the kiss. He just looked at him with that same gentle concern he had seen in his dreams. Min-jun couldn't speak. He just stared at the man who had just woken up from his kiss. He felt a wave of shame wash over him. What had he done? He had just kissed his professor. Ji-hoon, seeing his distress, reached out and gently took his hand. "You had a high fever last night," he said, his voice soft and reassuring. "Seo-jin found you and called me. I stayed to take care of you." Min-jun's eyes widened. You stayed? He didn't remember any of it. He didn't remember the fever, or Seo-jin, or the professor's gentle touch. A wave of sadness washed over him, a deep, aching sorrow for what he had missed. Yes, Ji-hoon said, his voice full of a quiet tenderness. I stayed. I wouldn't have left you alone. He squeezed Min-jun's hand. You're going to be okay now. Min-jun looked at him, his heart a tangle of emotions. He was happy that the professor had cared for him, but he was sad he couldn't remember it. He had a memory of a kiss, but not of the care that had led to it. And yet, in the professor's eyes, he saw everything he needed to know. He saw a promise of a future where he would remember everything. Min-jun's heart was a tangled knot of emotions, but as he looked into Ji-hoon's gentle eyes, a new feeling began to unravel it, a quiet certainty. The shame from the morning was gone, replaced by a desire to do something, anything, for the man who had cared for him. I can make you breakfast, he said, his voice a little raspy. A soft, warm smile spread across Ji-hoon's face, a sight that made Min-jun's heart do that strange little flip again. That sounds wonderful, Min-jun, he said, his voice full of a gentle affection. He stood up, stretching his arms over his head. Let me just change out of these clothes first. Ji-hoon returned a moment later, and Min-jun's breath caught in his throat. He was wearing an oversized, soft gray t-shirt that hung loosely on his frame, the fabric draping over his shoulders and falling to his thighs. The casual, intimate sight was more captivating than anything Min-jun had ever seen. Min-jun, flustered but determined, got out of bed and headed to the kitchen. He felt a quiet happiness, just being in the same space as Ji-hoon. The domesticity of the moment feeling more profound than any grand gesture. He started pulling out pans and ingredients, his mind a million miles away. They worked together in the kitchen, a comfortable silence settling between them. Min-jun, who usually ate alone, found himself enjoying the simple act of preparing food with someone else. Ji-hoon watched him with an amused fondness, leaning against the counter as Min-jun scrambled eggs. They sat at the small kitchen table, and Ji-hoon noticed Min-jun was still a little weak and hesitant to eat. He picked up a piece of toast and, with a gentle smile, held it up to Min-jun's lips. You need to eat, he said softly, his voice a quiet command. After breakfast, Ji-hoon insisted Min-jun needed a proper wash to feel better. He led him to the bathroom, the air warm and humid from the running water, and the scent of soap filling the room. I'll help you, Ji-hoon said, his voice a gentle murmur. As Ji-hoon gently washed Min-jun's hair, their eyes met. The intimacy of the moment, the soft touch, the shared space, was overwhelming. Min-jun reached up and pulled Ji-hoon closer, their lips meeting in a deep, passionate kiss. The kiss deepened, a silent conversation of desire and affection. The water lapped around them, a gentle rhythm to their movements. The world outside the bathroom seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, their bodies pressed together in the warm water. In the quiet aftermath, they held each other close. The shame and confusion from the morning were gone, replaced by a quiet certainty. This wasn't a dream, and it wasn't a mistake. It was the beginning of something real, a promise of a future they would build together. After the semester ended, Min-jun and Professor Ji-hoon decided to move in together. Their new apartment was a blank canvas, filled with the promise of a life built side by side. They spent their first weeks unpacking boxes and arranging books, turning a simple space into a true home. It wasn't long before the quiet whispers began. A student saw them at the grocery store. A colleague noticed them leaving the same building. Slowly, the whole university got to know about Min-jun and his professor Ji-hoon. The reactions were swift and mixed. Some professors looked at Ji-hoon with disapproval, their expressions cold and distant. They believed a professor and a student could never have a relationship like this, that it was a breach of some unspoken rule. But for every person who disapproved, there was someone who cherished their love. Min-jun's friend, Seol-gi, was his rock. She listened to his fears and reminded him that true love was a rare and beautiful thing, no matter the circumstances. Min-jun and Ji-hoon learned to tune out the noise. They built their little home filled with love, a sanctuary from the outside world. They cooked meals together, shared late-night conversations, and found comfort in each other's presence. The day of Min-jun's graduation was filled with a mix of pride and sadness. He was so proud of his accomplishment, but the absence of his family was a heavy weight. As he walked across the stage, he looked out at the crowd and saw only Ji-hoon, his new family, waiting for him. That evening, on a rooftop overlooking the city, Ji-hoon got down on one knee. "Min-jun," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "will you marry me?" Min-jun's heart swelled with a love so profound it took his breath away. Their wedding was a small affair, but it was perfect. Min-jun's family was not with him, but his friends were. Jae-eun, another close friend, stood by his side, her eyes welling up with tears of joy as he and Ji-hoon exchanged vows. The reception was a heartfelt celebration. Se-ulgi and Ji-hoon danced together, laughing and celebrating the start of Min-jun and Ji-hoon's new life. It was a testament to the new family they had built, a family of choice, not of blood. With their friends who shared a heartfelt bond, Min-jun and Ji-hoon knotted a bond of love and cherished it forever. They had found their home not in a place but in each other and in the love that surrounded them.